Well, my name is Michala Petersen, and I'm a pharmacist from Minden. And these little people right here are my, why isn't it going? Here we go. These are my 4 kids. Just a second, let me get this out of here. These are my 4 kids. Micah's 8, Marley's 6, Merrick is 4, and Madden is running around here. She's 2.5. And these are the reason that I'm on this wellness warrior mission right now. So I'm going to give you some bleak statistics here in a little bit, but first I want to give you a lot of hope, because the body is an absolutely miraculous thing. And so in less than 365 days, all of these things rebuild themselves. So your liver rebuilds itself in 6 weeks. Your bones are brand new in 3 months. Your brain is new in a year. Your DNA renews itself every 2 months. And this is really important for people of childbearing age, because that DNA is what we pass down to the next generation. And your stomach lining is brand new every 5 days. Your skin is completely new within a year, and your blood is brand new in 4 months. So unfortunately, this is the new childhood in America. 1 in 3 American children is overweight. 1 in 6 have learning disabilities. 1 in 9 have asthma. 1 in 10 have ADHD. 1 in 12 have food allergies. 1 in 20 have seizures. 1 in 54 males have autism. And actually, at the rate we're going, by the year 2032, 1 in 2 males will have autism. 50% of all of our children have a chronic illness or are overweight in some capacity. And this is the new normal in our country, unfortunately. So I didn't make this slide, but at the bottom it says, are you concerned yet? Because if not, we're not paying attention. So the risk of being diagnosed with cancer, in the year 1900, the risk was 1 in 30 people. And in the year 2000, the risk was 1 in 2. We're doing something fundamentally wrong, and that can all start with our plate. So by the time the average child in a developed country turns 8 years old, they've had more sugar in their lives than a person did in an entire lifetime just 1 century ago. And so we're gonna focus a little bit on sugar. You can see the graph here. We're gonna focus on the purple and then also the green, the produce and the sugar and the fat. And why do we care about sugar? I was an avid Pepsi drinker. I drank a Pepsi a day, even through 4 pregnancies, nursing. My wonderfully supportive spouse even brought Pepsi to the hospital when I was in labor. And I didn't think that there was anything wrong with it. I thought it was my only vice. How bad could it be? It's 1 Pepsi a day. What I didn't know is that phosphoric acid leaches calcium from the bones, though. So osteoporosis is on the rise, and I can't imagine what osteoporosis is going to be like when our kids get to be adults. 1 teaspoon of sugar depletes the immune system by 50% for 4 to 6 hours. This is nothing that I learned in pharmacy school. We took nutrition with the physicians, and we got 1 week of nutrition training. And that was how to calculate the calories in a protein, a fat, and a carb, and how to feed someone through an IV if they could no longer eat themselves. So this was all a brand new concept. So we know how sugar is detrimental. Every nutrition product has a label just like this with nutrition facts. And if you take the grams of sugar and divide it by 4, that's how many teaspoons of sugar are in that particular substance. So for 1 Pepsi, there's 41 grams of sugar, so that's 10¼ teaspoons of sugar. So we wonder why our kids get sick after Halloween and after Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter. When we sugar them up, we stress them out by letting them sleep less, and then all of a sudden we have the random acts of barfness that occur like a week post Halloween, right? We've all been there. So this is a Rethink Your Drink campaign. And how many of you know Jamie Oliver? Do any of you know who he is? He was a chef on the Food Network, actually, and now he goes around and does this food revolution. He goes into schools and revamps their whole food system, getting them to eat more whole food and less processed food. So one of his demonstrations, he's got an awesome TED Talk, which you can Google, but one of his presentations, he wheels a heaping full wheelbarrow full of sugar cubes out on the stage, and he throws them on this rug, and they just go everywhere. And that depicts the amount of sugar that a child aged kindergarten to 3rd grade consumes, drinking 1 to 2 cartons of milk a day. So as you can see here, can you guys see this very well? This is the amount of sugar in 1 little bitty carton of milk. So sugar is everywhere. A lot of people think, oh, I'll give my kid Crush or Fanta or root beer because it's caffeine free. But actually it's got 12 teaspoons of sugar. I mean, we would never let our kids like go to the sugar bowl and eat 12 teaspoons of sugar, but it's hidden everywhere. So this is Dr. David Katz, and he is on a prevention medicine movement because what we're doing in this country is not working. You know, you don't have to look far to find that. So I like to equate healthcare in our country to if the oil light comes on in your car, you can do one or two things. You can find and fix the problem, or you can unplug the light. And I'm only in the pharmacy every other Saturday now, and a big part of that is because I felt like I was just unplugging warning lights the majority of the time. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But he says that this may be the first generation of children to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents. And that really hit home to me. By the age of 12, many of our children have developed the beginning stages of hardening of the arteries. We talked about obesity. 1 in 3 children will develop diabetes in their lifetime. More than 25% of our children take prescription drugs in some capacity, which is heartbreaking. And the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that children as young as 8 can be treated with a cholesterol-lowering medication, which absolutely crushes me because those kids need cholesterol to make sex hormones. We're talking pre-puberty kids here who haven't even developed yet, and then we're giving them cholesterol-lowering medications to stop that production to help lead to those sex hormones. So that's absolutely sad to me. 75% of all chronic disease is preventable. And so you can supercharge your nutrition and upgrade your health. It sounds really easy, right? So the USDA recommends filling half of your plate with fruits and vegetables at every meal. I thought we ate healthy, but I guarantee we did not do this. So this is an awesome demonstration. The plate on the far right is 2 servings of fruits and vegetables, and that is how many servings an average American gets on a daily basis. The second plate is 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, and that's what a healthy American gets. The third plate from the right here is 9 servings of fruits and vegetables, and we're recommended to get 7 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. So that's 7 to 13 fist sizes of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis. And that's also what we're supposed to be feeding our kids. So that it could be a full-time job just in fruit and vegetable consumption. And then this plate right here on the far left is 18 servings of fruits and vegetables. And if you're athletic in any capacity, if you work out at all, that is what you should be consuming to combat oxidative stress. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So this is a fancy slide, and I'm going to try and make it clear here. These polka dots on the people are impurities. They're toxins. A fancy name for them are free radicals. And so those free radicals are what leads to oxidative stress, and that oxidative stress leads to inflammation. And in my opinion, inflammation is the root of all disease. You can take 2 people with the same cholesterol, with the same blood pressure, and the one that has the inflammation is going to be the one that is affected. So this is a typical diet. I'm sure you've all known people who go on a diet and they lose a lot of weight and then they gain a lot of weight, and it's a roller coaster. And I'm a perfect example of this slide right here. I was on Weight Watchers before we got married, and a lot of times if I wanted the 6-point brownie, I would forgo the meal for the 6-point brownie. So what happens, our organs and our bodies are so miraculous that here's a picture of a person, they diet, they lose weight, but those impurities, those toxins, those free radicals are still roaming all over their system just trying to find a buddy. That's all they want, is to find a buddy. And so 6 months later, our organs say, wait a minute, we don't like being attacked by these free radicals, so we're gonna make fat. We're gonna store fat around the organs so those free radicals can't be the pinballs in the pinball machine and bounce off our organs and cause disease. So that's this top one. This bottom one is called metabolic reprogramming, and this is the person who changes up their diet. They intake a lot of fruits and vegetables, and particularly berries. And what those do, those are antioxidants. So they latch on to those free radicals, and then they're able to be whisked away to your kidneys and liver to be eliminated. So then this far bottom right-hand corner is is a person that has ridded their body of those free radicals just by changing their diet and incorporating more fruits and vegetables. Does anyone have any questions on that? Nope. That's kind of a confusing one. So why do we care about free radicals and oxidative stress? What's the big deal? free radicals and oxidative stress wreak havoc everywhere. So it causes inflammation, it causes autoimmune conditions. You know, 20 or 30 years ago, there was just a handful of autoimmune conditions, and now today there's 170. I mean, you don't have to look far to see people that are infected, whether it's MS or lupus or Crohn's or cancers or anything like that. They cause hardening of the arteries, they disrupt the blood flow, they cause diabetes and aging, macular degeneration, cataracts, heart disease, blood pressure problems, skin aging, psoriasis, sunburns, kidney damage, joint pain, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, asthma, allergies, cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ADD, autism, migraine, stroke, cancer, you name it. That's the root cause of it all. So this slide is near and dear to my heart because we still have pharmacy shelves that are lined with multivitamins. And we'll talk about this slide in a minute, but there's actually been 2 multivitamin studies that have been stopped 2 years short because the multivitamin population had a higher incidence of cancer and chronic disease than the placebo group. And the reason for that is our body is not made to process 250% of daily vitamin A or 250% of daily vitamin C. Our bodies are made to process whole food. So our liver and our kidneys have to take that multivitamin through 12 different conversions to get it to a usable form that our body can even recognize. I'm sure some of you have taken a multivitamin and you pee bright gold afterwards. That's indicative of what is going on inside your body. So this slide represents phytonutrition. And those are the building blocks in fruits and vegetables that really get down to the cellular level and help your body thrive. That's what we're built to eat. So this multivitamin shows the phytonutrition in that multivitamin. There's like 25 different phytonutrients versus an organic apple that has 16,000 nutrients in that one apple. And so you think of an orange only has 6 micrograms of vitamin C, but scurvy was cured by giving oranges to soldiers, right? So you take a vitamin C supplement and it's 250 milligrams or 500 or 1,000 or even 2,500 milligrams of vitamin C. It definitely is not the same. It's got a supplement label, not a nutrition label, and obviously it's made in a lab. So these are just a few of the ingredients in an apple. Interesting, you know, arsenic is in an apple, cyanide is in an apple, all of these things that are in minuscule amounts, but the way they work together is where the magic happens. So this is a multivitamin label and how many ingredients are in that down in that corner there. I have a friend in Omaha, and she's a nurse in the Army, and she's been stationed in Germany for a year, and we had this great conversation at one of these events, and she was talking that weekly soldiers, young soldiers, are brought in from downrange with kidney failure, liver failure, heart attacks, strokes, and brain bleeds. And after all the labs are run and they've done the complete workup, the only thing that can be traced back is supplements. And so supplements are everywhere, you know, whether it's Monster Drink or creatine or whatever, they're everywhere. And so it's actually really dangerous for our health. So this is the color of the rainbow, and 8 out of 10 Americans don't eat enough color. 74% don't eat enough red. Red benefits the prostate, the urinary tract, DNA health. They protect against cancer and heart disease. 76% don't eat enough purple. Purple fruits and vegetables are good for heart health, brain, bone, artery, cognitive health. They fight cancer and support healthy aging. 69% don't eat enough green. Green vegetables and fruits support eye health, arterial function, lung function, liver. They help wounds heal. 83% don't eat enough white, and white is a really hard fruit or vegetable for kids to eat especially. That supports healthy bones, the circulatory system. They fight heart disease and cancer. And 80% don't eat enough yellow, which are good for eye health, immune function, and healthy development. So these are just some fun facts that I didn't know about fruits and vegetables. Cucumbers are 90% water. They dissolve kidney and bladder stones. They're anti-cancer. They heal ulcers. They regulate blood pressure. They rehydrate the body, relieve headaches, and promote healthy skin. Carrots, I'm sure we all know that carrots are great for eyesight. I mean, I think our parents probably all said, eat your carrots, they make your eyes bright. But did you also know that they stimulate gum and induce excess saliva, which prevents against cavities? They regulate blood sugar levels in the body, so they're great for diabetics. They lower the risk of macular degeneration. These are the 10 benefits of watermelon, and number 2 says that watermelon is a natural aphrodisiac. So usually guys like completely tune out and are headed for the grocery store by the time I'm done with this slide, but that was a joke. Geez, rough crowd. They improve circulation, eyesight. It's a natural mood elevator. They promote weight loss. They help your kidneys. It's a powerful antioxidant, like we talked about, that pairs up with those bad guys that are roaming around causing disease. They soothe muscle soreness and prevent heat stroke, and it's a natural diuretic. So God's Pharmacy is absolutely amazing. A carrot looks like an eye, and that's exactly what it's good for. A tomato has 4 chambers, just like a heart, and you can't find better heart and blood food than a tomato. A walnut looks like a brain and helps develop more than 3 dozen neuro-brain functions, so that good fat is great for us. And then beans are shaped like kidneys, and that's exactly what they're for. So I have a lot of people that say, oh, I eat healthy. I was one of them that thought we ate healthy. But in 1960, 1 cup of spinach had the nutrition content of 10 cups of spinach today. So nutrition, especially in our country, is really declining. You would have to eat 8 oranges today to equal nutritionally what 1 did in 1960. And what's the cause of that? I mean, our soil is not as rich as it used to be, but mainly the fruits and vegetables develop the most nutrition the last 3 to 5 days of ripening. And so in 1960, a lot of people grew their own food, and now they're picked way before they're ripe. They're trucked 1,000 miles to us. They're sprayed with a chemical to make it look ripe, and then they're sold in our grocery stores. So I'm sure everyone, even this summer, has cut into a bright white strawberry. There's not, it's better than chips, but there's not much nutrition in bright white strawberries. So if you take the word eat out of your vocabulary and replace it with nourish, it'll change your whole perspective. My family in particular was one that used to love to eat, and we did not eat to live, we lived to eat, So this has been a big change for us, but it's well worth it. So one thing that we focus on is called One Simple Change. And we have a Facebook group that each month, it only takes 3 weeks to develop a habit. So each month we have a different theme. And then, it's daunting to get healthy, but if you do it one simple change at a time, it's not. And it's a lot of fun to be inspired by what other people, even just a picture can inspire you what to cook on the grill that night. And so we focus on eating whole food, drinking more water, we focus on moving your body, and we focus on sleeping more and stressing less. So what are the benefits of staying hydrated? Fluid balance, muscle fuel, clearer skin, it boosts your productivity. It's a toxin remover, joint greaser, brain booster, calorie controller, blood normalizer, and fatigue buster. Did you know water does all of those things? 20 benefits of exercise. I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer. I'm sure all of you know what these are, but I didn't know that, exercising really does help detoxify the body. When we sweat, all of those impurities are coming out. So that boosts your immune system because you don't have those toxins clogging everything. Exercising improves memory. I didn't know that. Obviously, it boosts mood, strengthens heart, manages chronic pain. So many people that have chronic pain think they can't work out, but actually that's a myth. They actually feel better once they do work out. So I love this slide because nobody wants to admit they're stressed. Americans are the most stressed population, I think. But anyway, I didn't realize that all of these things are a sign of stress. So muddled thinking, impaired judgment, hasty decisions, being negative, being accident prone, drinking more, obviously, loss of sex drive, being irritable, depressed, headaches, frequent infections, muscle twitches, all of those things can be a sign of stress. So is anyone familiar with Dr. Sears? He's a well-known pediatrician. His son, Jim Sears, is actually on the show, The Doctors. And I got the privilege of eating supper with him in Phoenix when we were there this spring. Just such a wise soul. He's written over 42 children's books, and he's probably one of the best-known pediatricians in America. And so he just came out with a great book called NDD. It's called Nutritional Deficit Disorder. And so what his theory is that we do not have a medication deficiency or a Ritalin deficiency. We have a whole food deficiency in our nation. And so he can tell by interviewing a parent and asking what the child ate for breakfast if they have this disorder or not. And so he talks about the D's, ADD and OCD, and all of those things can be a sign of a nutritional deficiency rather than that problem. So he talks about the foolish 5, and if you clean up these 5 things from your diet, you will be eating 90% clean. So the first one is high fructose corn syrup, which I'm sure is a household name now. This is a factory-made fake sugar that makes you want to keep eating when you're full. it overexcites the brain and causes neurogenic imbalances like ADD and ADHD. The second is hydrogenated oils, and according to him, these are the sickest, fakest, and dumbest of all fats. These create brain fog. I'm sure if you've eaten at a fast food restaurant and you just feel disgusting afterwards, that's the reason. Number 3 are numbers, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this. These are actually neurotoxins. On the shelf, they look like beautiful little innocent food coloring, and then especially in kids, when they get into our brains, they're neurotoxins, so they poison the nervous system. And actually how they work is by degrading the myelin sheath, it's called, so it's like insulation that makes our nerves run smoothly and makes everything fire like it should. And so they attack the nerve and create brain fog. MSG overexcites the brain and lies to your brain about fake food. And then aspartame, probably the most dangerous, degrades to formaldehyde and chlorine in your system. And I grew up in a funeral home, and I know firsthand that pickling something with a heartbeat is never a good thing. You know, like, we don't need formaldehyde in our body. And aspartame is everywhere. So it's hidden in anything 0 calorie or sugar free. It may be disguised as a lot of different names, but at the root, it's very bad for brains. Okay, so this is from The Truth About Cancer. And this is all the, and I can get this slide to you if you want. This is all of the, it's called the cancer causing rainbow. So blue number 1, those pretty blue drinks found in baked goods, beverages, and cereals, it causes kidney tumors in lab mice. Red number 3, maraschino cherries, baked goods, and candy. It was banned by the FDA for causing thyroid tumors when used in cosmetics. Yellow number 6 is that beautiful sunset yellow color. It's used in beverage, desserts, gelatin, candy, and even sausage. And it's known to cause adrenal tumors. And our adrenals are kind of like the police of our immune system. If your adrenals are not functioning properly, your body is not functioning properly. And it also has been known to cause hyperactivity in kids. Green is found in many cosmetics, candy, and drugs. It increases tumors of the bladder and testes in male rats. Blue number 2 is in candy, pet food, and other items. It's shown to cause brain tumors in rats. And again, the scary part of this is a lot of them aren't studied in humans. So anyway, I could read all of them. That I don't want to bore you. So if it came from a plant, eat it. And if it was made in a plant, don't. So that's a really good rule of thumb. One way that we have gotten our kids to eat more produce is by growing our own food. And so how many of you like to garden? Do any of you like to garden? Okay. Yay, that's awesome. They all have a garden. So I used to plant a wonderful garden. It was beautiful. My husband would turn a cattle pen into a great garden, and 3 weeks into it, I'd see the first 4.5-foot bull snake, and that was the last time I went in the garden that summer. So the kids, got in on the initial planting, but not much else after that. So I was complaining of weeding the garden at one point, and my uncle said, "You just need a tower garden." And so I asked all these questions, figured out exactly what it was. No dirt, no weeds, no soil. It self-waters itself. You water it every, depending on if it's outside or inside. Inside, we water ours every 3 weeks. Outside, it's about once a week. But you can grow 28 different plants in a 2-foot area, straight up. So we got a tower garden, and these are my girls. I'm missing the little boy for some reason, but anyway, they are so apt to walk by the tower garden and pluck lettuce off and eat it. This is, on the right is when you plant the seedlings, and on the left is under 3 weeks. So you're literally eating lettuce in under 3 weeks. Why try and explain miracles to your kids when you have them plant a garden? So one of the things that we have done to give back to our community is we have a tower garden on a tower tour right now. And we do 6-week stops at each nursing home. And the kids go in and tell them how to plant the seedlings, and we plant seeds with them, and then they get to harvest it and watch it grow, and it has lights, so it makes everyone happy and feel like you're outside all the time. A lot of times we end up singing Jingle Bells in June, but the residents don't care. They love it. So how many gallons of water does it take to grow 1 pound of lettuce? In a soil-grown garden, it takes 71 gallons of water, and in a tower garden, it only takes 3. And this is really important because California produces 90% of our green leafy vegetables. And as I'm sure you've probably heard, they're in one of the worst droughts in history. So produce is not going to get any cheaper, especially where we are, for sure, because of the trucking. So I would be doing you a total disservice if I didn't say, hammer down the importance of eating fruits and vegetables, and then not give you a tool that we have in our toolbox to help assist us in bridging that gap between what we do eat and what we should eat. So when I was on the phone with the pharmacist, hi Diane, that showed me the tower garden, that posted a picture of her tower garden on Facebook. She said, have you ever heard of Juice Plus? And I said, no, we're already healthy. Okay, go ahead and tell me what it was. And she said, it's just 30 fruits, vegetables, and berries in a soft chew or in a capsule, and your kids can get it for free. And I went, okay, that sounds way too good to be true. So then I said, well, how much does it cost to be a rep? Because as a family of 6, you know, we were going to need quite a bit of product. And she said $50 a year for no inventory, no minimums, no quotas, nothing like that. And so I said, well, sign me up, but I never want to share it. And so I was one of those that thought we ate fruits and vegetables every day, but we sure didn't eat black currant and chickpea and yucca and pomegranate and stuff like that on a daily basis. And so our family really saw big results right off the bat. My husband was in a bad cannon accident 3 years ago, and within a few weeks he wasn't having the inflammation in his leg and consequently the pain in his leg that he had. Our 8-month-old at the time that's running around here needed tubes in her ears, and I canceled the tube consult and thought, I wonder if she has a deficiency rather than something anatomically wrong. And as a family of 6, we have not been to the doctor at all in 2 years. No antibiotics, nothing. And so we're living proof of what the research says happens in your immune system. So our 2-year-old gagged at anything green, and getting him to even take a bite of broccoli was a fight that I didn't fight a lot of nights. And so within 3 weeks, I said, Merrick, we're having people over. What should we eat? And he said, salad. And I went, okay, I can think that I have more energy, and maybe that's a placebo, but I cannot trick a 2-year-old that literally gagged at anything green before. And he ate seconds, and it was great. And our 4-year-old, Marley, had struggled with focus and never had sat on her lap to read a full book. And within, less than a month, she was sitting on our lap and we were reading her book after book, and it was just such a heartwarming experience. So at that time, I thought, well, as any good pharmacist would, I probably should research what we're putting into our bodies. And that is really what blew me away. At that point, I read The Birth of Juice Plus, and the creator's dad was given 3 weeks to live, and he ended up living for 15 years. And I knew I needed to message a mom of a kiddo with cancer. And within an hour, she messaged me back and said, how long have you known about this, and why didn't you tell me sooner? And it still gets me, because as a pharmacist, I took an oath to do no harm. And by not telling people about this, I really do feel like I am doing harm. So these are a few of the things that really intrigued me about Juice Plus. Number one is the longevity. The company's been around for 23 years. The quality is second to none. There's never been a recall in 23 years. There's never been a lawsuit. It's tested 6 times from field to capsule. So there's no impurities, E. coli, salmonella, all of that stuff. It has a nutrition label, not a supplement label, which is really important. And it's NSF certified, which what that means is there's nothing on the label that's not in the capsule. There's nothing additional in the capsule that's not on the label. And most importantly, it does no harm. So as a pharmacist, I think I have been approached by almost every product. Maybe there's a few that I haven't been, but my 3 questions were always, is it safe in pregnancy? Is it safe in cancer patients? And would you give it to your kids? And I kind of got a kick out of it, actually, like hanging people up on those 3 things, because none of them have been really studied in those populations. And so when I found out that Juice Plus was studied in cancer patients at MD Anderson, we have a pregnancy study, and we have the largest children's study of any product anywhere in the world at over 1 million kids strong. I also like the fact that I wasn't alone. 30% of Juice Plus reps are in the medical community. Thousands of doctors recommend it. And then probably most importantly, we have 36 published studies to back Juice Plus up. So these are big name universities like Yale and Brigham Young and Greensboro, and places that wouldn't put their name on just anything. And so a pharmaceutical drug only needs 2 studies on the intended population. So if it's a hypertension drug, they only need 2 studies on hypertensive people, and they only have to be 65% effective. So the fact that I kind of had a spiritual warfare going, because I truly believe that God knew what we needed. That's why he put it in the Garden of Eden. So why do we research fruits and vegetables? But yet the pharmacist in me is really glad we have that research to stand on. So it really gives merit. So this is just a summary of the research. We have 2 studies now to show what healthy gums, and we have a wisdom tooth study that is going to be published later this year that showed decreased healing time, less pain, and an increase, they had better recovery time overall. We've got 4 studies on the heart. We've got 4 studies on immune function, 4 studies on DNA function. And you can see the far right-hand column over there is oxidative stress. And we talked about those bad guys that get down and cause disease. That's an incredible amount of research on oxidative stress. So that kind of shows where healthcare is going, I think. We've got a very impressive study on the skin. The skin is microvascular circulation. So, and that study showed that microvascular circulation was increased by 39%, the blood flow to those areas. So you take that a step further, and diabetics, where do they have complications? It's the nerves and the kidneys and the eyes and erectile dysfunction and all of those things. So as far as prevention standpoint, if you can increase blood flow by 39% to those areas, that's going to be amazing for that population. And then we've got a couple different systemic inflammation studies. So this study, it's called the COBRA study. It was done on elite Austrian soldiers. So this is our equivalent to the Navy SEALs. And what I love about this study is it was so controlled. I mean, these guys are eating the same thing, they're sleeping the same amount of time, they're doing the same exercise. And basically this is a fancy way to say the soldiers that were taking Juice Plus could work out longer and harder and weren't as sore as the placebo group. This is the Children's Health Study, and I mentioned before that we have over 1 million kids strong. This was created in 1997. Currently, there are 200,000 participants right now. And after just 1 year on Juice Plus, 56% of those kiddos are taking less prescription medication, 60% are missing less school, 61% are eating more fruits and vegetables, 66% are visiting the doctor less, 71% were both drinking more water and consuming less fast food and soft drinks, which is important. 89% were more aware of their health. And I don't know that there's anything more heartwarming than to take my kiddos to the grocery store and to have them say, "Mom, that's a red light food. That's not a grow food, Mom. We should get something else." And then 96% were reaping some sort of positive benefit. Any guesses as to how old this happy/sad meal is? No, 16 years old. Other than the crusty bun in the upper left-hand corner, it looks like you could eat that Happy Meal today, right? So this is another one of my favorite studies, and it could possibly be one of my favorites because a group of physicians approached Juice Plus and said, "We know that the majority of heart attacks and stroke happen after a high-fat meal. Will you study it?" And I love that they're always open to that. So they brought a group of people into the lab. They fed them they tested their blood pressure and their brachial artery first, then fed them all the same high-fat meal from McDonald's, brought them back to the lab, tested their blood pressure again, and what they found was a 50% vasoconstriction that lasted 4 to 6 hours. So it was 50% harder for their hearts to pump that fatty blood through. And what that shows is anytime we ingest anything trans fat, which is man-made fat, our body naturally clamps down because it recognizes it as foreign. So this study was only 28 days long. They sent home a placebo group, an orchard and garden group, and then an orchard, garden, and vineyard group. We brought them back at 28 days, did the same thing, blood pressure, high-fat meal, blood pressure. And what they found was the placebo group was exactly the same as they predicted. The orchard and garden group had a 62% reduction in that vasoconstriction. So their hearts pumped that blood through 62% easier than the placebo group. But most impressive, the orchard, garden, and vineyard group, so the fruit, the vegetable, and the berry blend, had less than 2% vasoconstriction. So it was as if they had not even eaten that high-fat meal to begin with. And that's important to me because I have stroke in my family history, but also as a mom. I mean, how many times do we feed our kids Runza and then drop them off at the soccer field knowing it's 50% harder for their little hearts to pump that blood through? So this is what happens in your body when you eat Juice Plus for 4 months. We know there's immediate effects. We know that in just 7 days, there's a decrease in the lipid peroxides, and so that's what gets down and causes muscle soreness when you work out. At 14 days, there's an increase in micronutrients. At 28 days, there's a significant elevation of key antioxidants, so those guys that latch onto those free radicals to be detoxified. At 42 days, there's an increased resistance to LDL cholesterol oxidation, which is obviously good for heart health. And then at 80 days, you see an increase in folate levels, you see an increase in selenium levels, and selenium deficiency has been shown to be linked to all sorts of different brain disorders. there's a decrease in systolic and diastolic blood pressure, an improvement in artery compliance, and a reduction in the cold and flu-like symptoms. But probably the most impressive thing about the 80-day study, the group of 80-day research, is the immune system study. And I mentioned before, there's 170 different autoimmune conditions. So whether you have lupus or MS or Crohn's, I was an ulcerative colitis sufferer, or allergies or asthma or cancer. I mean, you can name diabetes, you can name a lot of them. No matter what you have, though, the underlying condition is the same. And so our body has two regulatory control systems, or control cells of the immune system. We have the T cells, which are like the sergeants, and we have the B cells that are the soldiers. So in a balanced immune system, the sergeants tell the soldiers what to do and the soldiers listen, right? Well, in an unbalanced immune system, the soldiers rise in number and the sergeants are depleted. So basically, your body's like a kindergarten classroom without any teachers, or it could be like the Petersen household on any given day, depending on how it goes. That was also a joke. Anyway, and so what happens on just 80 days with Juice Plus is the T cells rise in number, but so do the proteins that make the T cells. So that just shows that it's not a fluke. It's going to keep happening because those proteins turn into cells. But probably most important about that 80-day study was the natural killer cells were also increased. And what natural killer cells' job is they roam around our immune system and eat cancer. I mean, even infants have cancer cells. They just have to be 1 billion in number to be detected. So anytime you have more of those Pac-Men that roam around your system eating cancer, you're naturally going to have less cancer. So that's great for prevention, especially since we know that 1 in 2 will get cancer. This is Dr. Rick Du Bois, and he was the head infectious disease doctor at the Atlanta Medical Center. And he says, after looking at all the research done on Juice Plus, I recognize that there is nothing else available any place in the world with or without a prescription that has been shown to do all those things in the human body. I love that we are so simple. You'll never see a Juice Plus catalog. There's the Tower Garden, which I talked about. There's the Juice Plus, which is like the oil that you put in the car. I drove a 78 LTD for 6 years, and I'm living proof that you can drive a car on little or no oil for a while, but then eventually it breaks down and leaves you stranded, and that is the same way our bodies are. We also have a complete protein, which is like the gas that you put in the engine, so totally different than the micronutrition. This is macronutrition, so it can be a meal, it's in those delicious protein balls, it can be a snack, you can put it in protein pancakes or disguise it all sorts of places, but you don't really need to disguise it because it kind of tastes like a Wendy's Frosty or a cinnamon roll or whatever. It's got 26 superfoods though, including ancient grains, sprouts, broccoli, alfalfa, radish, amaranth, quinoa, and millet. And this is just a fancy way to say you will never find a protein powder anywhere that is as pure as the complete. It's been studied at MD Anderson in cancer patients also. And anyway, it's awesome. It tastes great. So what does good health mean to you? Does it mean healthy eating? Does it mean being fit? Does it mean lots of energy? Does it mean preventing disease? We've talked about some catalysts tonight to jumpstart your health. So as you leave, think of one simple change that you could make. Regardless of what you take home, think of one simple change that you could make. Could you eat more whole food? Could you drink more water? Could you move your body to get more exercise? Or could you sleep more and stress less? And if you want to be part of that Facebook group, just ask us. We can easily add you to that. So every bite you take is either feeding disease or fighting it. Your body is a finely tuned vehicle, so give it good fuel and it'll take you places. So that's it. If you want to tell how to make the salads, we can go from there. Just a second. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
They're all laughing for you too.
So Michala?
Yes.